On this episode, we're talking about the 49ers' new social media policy, what social platforms you should be on, and connecting with older generations online. Hey everybody, what's up and welcome to the 88 Dental Marketing Show. This is the internet's only dental show that's answering marketing's most important questions. We've been spitting the truth since February. Since this last February, 5 months of bringing you marketing truth. It hasn't been a long run, but it's been deep marketing truth right here on the show. My name is Joshua Scott. I am your host, and this is episode 22. Good time. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a great show today. Got a little bit of a social media topic today that we're going to be hitting on. So 2 really good questions, some current event news I want to share with you. But before we get to that, this show today is sponsored by my good friends over at Vincent and West. Vincent and West is Central Ohio's premier clothier, custom suits and men's clothing. Vincent and West is run and led by my good friend Sean Ricardo. So hit these guys up. Their website is down in the show notes down below. Reach out to them. Tell Sean I said hi. Look, if you are a man, you need to have a good custom suit in your wardrobe. Don't just go pick one up off the shelf and have it tailored. This is a whole different experience. I mean, Sean's bringing over amazing fabrics from the best mills over in Italy. I mean, this guy, he knows what he's doing. He'll come to your practice, your place of employment, your home. So hit him up. I think every guy ought to have a great looking custom suit in his closet. These are the guys that bring it to you. So reach out to them. Tell them I said hi. Thanks so much for sponsoring the show. In marketing news this week, an interesting story from the San Francisco 49ers. They issued a press release that was picked up by the Wall Street Journal. And I wanted to take a minute and bring this on the show because I thought it was a really, really interesting piece. Basically, the 49ers, it was a stance on social media and social media parameters and interaction between players and training and during the season and team meetings and all that. The 49ers, basically, they brought in some psychologists and experts from Stanford to just kind of reassess the program and talk about human achievement and attention spans and some of these things. And as a result of these meetings, they have restructured their normal 2 to 3 hour team meetings to give players social media breaks. So instead of a 2 to 3 hour straight team meeting, which these experts came in and said, talk about attention, human attention spans and all this and that. They said, let's do a team meeting for 20 to 30 minutes and then give players a social media break where they can stop, get on their phones, get their little fix, reset, come back and do another team meeting. And so I thought it was a really, really interesting and probably brilliant move because if the National Football League is trying to figure out how to deal with social media in the workplace, then we know everybody else is. I mean, schools are dealing with this right now with kids. Places of employment, businesses, dental practices, everybody is trying to figure out not just social media in the workplace, but mobile devices in the workplace. And so what was interesting is a National Football League organization taking the stance on not limiting it and placing all these rules and policies around it, but embracing it and giving players that opportunity. And the reason I think this is important is because, look, employees have a disproportionate amount of influence when it comes to marketing. And so employees on social media, and I think that those lines are blurring more and more today, right? I mean, the lines between personal and professional relationships are blurring. Everybody is a bit of a marketer for the place they work at or their organization in some sense. And so because you work there, you have a disproportionate amount of influence, marketing influence on people. And so when that's good, it's really good and it works for you. When that goes bad, it goes bad, and it doesn't work for you. And so we're seeing this everywhere right now. I mean, just in the last few weeks, we are seeing so many churches across the country that are being misrepresented. When it came to the gay marriage verdict a week or so ago, we saw so many churches get misrepresented by their staff on social media. Staff that aired or voiced personal views but got associated with the church that they worked with. And so, then we go back to free speech, right? And I have a right to free speech, and it's social media, and it's like, yeah, but free speech can never be a covering or an excuse to not have discretion. And I think discretion is probably one of the biggest things that as a country in this whole digital social media revolution, privacy, freedom of speech, all that we may just be losing sight of. I mean, we may just be losing it completely because people think they can just get on social media and voice their opinion. And what is discretion? What? I have a right to say whatever I want. And I would make the argument, yeah, but you work for this organization. And your voice is tied to this company or this association. And so what I think the 49ers are doing is actually really brilliant. Instead of trying to control it, they're giving it space, allowing it to breathe. And I think that that's really, really good. And I think it was refreshing to see an organization come out with some type of constructive policy about it. And so, I say all that to say, look, number one, your employees have a disproportionate amount of marketing influence. We know that. Secondly, as a business owner, you ought to start thinking about your social media policy, how you feel about it, what you expect from employees. Maybe having this conversation. I mean, maybe pull the Wall Street Journal's article, take it in your next team meeting. Talk to your staff about it. How do you feel? Is that right? Are you allowed to say whatever you want to say? Should you have time for social media? What should your reactions, what should your thoughts and your voice towards this office sound like in a public space like that? So, good article. I think it's worth some thought, and hopefully it pushes you a little bit to start thinking about some social media policy.
Question number 1 comes from Kyle Keller. With social media being so big in the modern day, how much should you use it and what site specifically?
Kyle, I like this question, but before I answer it specifically the way I know you want me to, let me just first clarify something. When we say social media and social media is getting so big, I know you're referring specifically to sites like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and these places where we connect with people and share information. That's what we've come to know as social media. But really the truth is social media, it's just a descriptor. I mean, it's just a description of the online world that we live in today. Because that's where everything's going, right? I mean, even e-commerce sites are struggling to connect people and to make it social. And so social media is, in a sense, taking over the entire online world. And we had like Internet 1.0, which was about just people putting up web pages and images with AOL dial-up. I mean, remember that? And then we had like the second revolution, Rev 2, of the internet, which was about social. It was about connecting, about sharing. And so that started, we're still in it. It's gradually taking over everything. So, but I think your question was good. And so number one, when it comes to dental practice, where should you be at in social media? Number one, right at the top is Facebook, of course. As a dental practice, that's your biggest place to invest. not only in creating content, but in some of the other strategies we have talked about on the show, earlier episodes. I'm not going to get into that now. Twitter, Twitter's a tough one right now. And I know a lot of practices use it. I know a lot of them, if they post to Facebook, they kick it out to Twitter automatically. I'm struggling seeing the value in Twitter right now for a dental practice. It feels like a fire hose of information, of news and links. And I'm just not sure how that's integrating into a good dental practice's marketing strategy. And honestly, I think Twitter is about a half a step to a step behind. We haven't seen the innovation there like we have with a Facebook or an Instagram or Pinterest or some of these other sites. And so I think Twitter's got to do some things there. I would say pass on that one. Google Plus, and this one is going to create controversy. Okay, so everybody outside of the show that's not in the dental community, and a bunch of people that are going to say, no way, man. Google's going to pull the plug on Google Plus. Don't even worry about it. Don't waste your time. However, Google listings are influenced by your Google Plus page. And so that's part of that kind of the algorithm there between citations and your website and reviews and your Google Plus page. That determines your ranking on Google Local. And so if you're already posting to Facebook, just take that content, post it again on Google Plus, and populate that page and pay attention to it and work on it and be there. And that, especially if you're in a competitive market, that could give you just that little bit of edge that you need to get ahead of somebody else in those Google Local rankings. So I would pay attention to that, and you're welcome. Instagram is a really interesting one right now. I'm starting to see some offices do a really good job with Instagram. There's just been 2 or 3 out there where I'm like, good job. That looks great. Instagram is visually driven. I mean, it's got to have photos, so that makes it just a little bit more challenging. You got to really think through that, but it's an amazing opportunity. And then the other interesting one is Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a great platform. We know that there the demographic is it's not entirely women. I mean, it's a large female demographic on Pinterest. And we know that as a dental practice, that's our target audience. Females drive and influence healthcare decisions. And so that's a really great place to be connecting, especially if you're a female dentist. Pinterest should be a no-brainer. That's extremely easy. Put it together, do that. The last thing I'll say is this fall, Instagram is releasing their new ad platform. And so it'll be really interesting to see what that looks like. And the practices who are on Instagram have a leg up. They've got a competitive advantage there. And then Pinterest will be soon to follow, I'm sure. Probably early 2016, mid 2016, Pinterest you'll be allowed to begin placing ads on Pinterest. And I think that is going to shake up everything. So if I was a dental practice, those are the sites I would be on.
Question number 2 comes from Catherine Manis. How do you connect with the older generations via the digital world?
Catherine, super, super, super good question. I love it. So how to connect with older generations online. What's interesting, because we were just talking about Instagram, right? You probably didn't realize this, but Instagram's biggest growing demographic right now is women ages 40 to 50 years old. So that's the biggest growth on Instagram right now. And so a platform that we've probably looked at like, oh, those are the kids, those are the teenagers and the high school students. Yeah, it's now the 40 and 50-year-old women. But this is how it always goes, right? I mean, like we know this. We saw this happen with Facebook. I mean, it started off with the kids, and then it got popular, and then the parents got on it, and then the grandparents got on it. And now we have Instagram that started off with the kids and got cool and popular, and now the parents are getting on it. we're gonna see this with Snapchat. Like, we all look at Snapchat right now, we're like, oh, it's just a bunch of kids on there just shooting video and sexting, and it's like, okay, so it's starting with the kids. It's gonna get cool and popular, and then the parents are gonna follow, and then the grandparents are gonna follow, and it'll be really wild the day that we're all sitting here on this show and we're talking about the grandparents using Snapchat. Right? I mean, it's gonna start getting real then. And so that's what's coming. And so the people out there that are talking about how, like, well, you know, my practice, the majority of it is 40 and above, and so I just don't get into all that digital stuff. I'm like, hold on, stop. Because in the evenings, the biggest user demographic online in the evenings are 50 to 65 year olds on tablet devices. And so if you think that 50 and 60 year olds are not online, you're in a different world. And honestly, for most practices that I work with and see and run into like this, it's an excuse to not get into something that you don't understand or you're not comfortable with. And I get that. I get that it can be scary, that it's complex, that it's hard to get a handle on and understand, but that doesn't make it true for that age group. And so older generations are online. You have to figure out where to go to meet them. Is Facebook a good play? Yes, of course. But right now we're starting to see a big shift with Instagram, and because it's so visually driven, it's a great place to think about getting involved in. But man, connecting with your patients online is huge. It's number one. When it comes to your marketing strategy, your number one objective is to connect with patients online. And so generating content, we see that those age groups, the older age generations, read blogs more. They surf. They're looking for information. They're searching for specific services, which is why we back up. And I'm talking about, you know, dental implant landing pages and writing blog posts about same visit crowns and all these things, because you have to generate that content so when they search, they find it. And when they find it, you are perceived as the experts. 40, 50, 60-year-olds, they want to go to the doctor in town that can do the treatment, but is the expert in the area with that treatment. And so connect with them online. You got to do that. Guys, episode number 22. Great episode. Appreciate you being here. I hope this one was good. It's all about social media. So, homework of the day. What social media platforms are you on? Just take a minute, write them down. We're on this one, this one, this one, this one. What social media platforms should you be on? Guys, episode 22. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.